The crowded Republican primary field is one of a number of political challenges for the party in 2024. Of course, catching the man well ahead of most of them, Donald Trump, is the problem for the rest of that field. NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake has a look ahead.
The strength of Donald Trump's hold on the Republican Party is one of the first questions 2024 may answer. The GOP presidential field, which peaked with more than a dozen active candidates in 2023, ends the year with just 5 credible campaigns remaining, and polling shows the Republican race remains Donald Trump's to lose.
So we're leading with 51%, while Ron DeSanctimonious is at less than 19 and Haley is at 60. What happened to the Haley surge?
The early states gauntlet of Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and South Carolina likely to winnow the field still further before what could be a decisive Super Tuesday on March 5th. Trump's biggest roadblock on the path to the convention and nomination in July may not be another candidate at all, but his legal challenges, including 91 criminal charges spread across 4 cases, and a civil fraud trial set to conclude in January, which has already bogged him down in New York. He's denied all charges.
I should be right now in Iowa and New Hampshire, South Carolina. I shouldn't be sitting in a courthouse.
January could prove a pivotal month on Capitol Hill, too, with the first of 2 government funding deadlines, which could lead to a partial shutdown, even as negotiators resume work on a stalled bill to send aid to Israel and Ukraine and overhaul immigration policy.
Negotiations will continue in earnest until we get there.
All while House Republicans' impeachment inquiry aims to pick up steam.
We expect to depose the president's son, and then we will be more than happy to have a public hearing with him.
The House will face those challenges with a majority somehow even slimmer than the one they began with in 2023, when they struggled for days to elect Kevin McCarthy as Speaker in an historic 15 ballots.
He won't have the votes.
With McCarthy, who made history a second time when he was ousted from the speakership by 8 rogue Republicans in October, retiring from Congress in December.
I would do it all again.
And New York's George Santos, who practically rewrote the definition of congressional scandal.
If I leave, they win.
Expelled in disgrace and facing federal prosecution. And while new House Speaker Mike Johnson continues to learn on the job, top Senate Republican Mitch McConnell will likely remain the subject of speculation over how long he'll hold on to his leadership post after a March concussion contributed to 2 frightening freezes for the 81-year-old.
All right, I'm sorry, you all, we're going to need a minute.
Whoever's in charge, the party's key issues in 2024 seem set, addressing border security and the economy uniting them.
I think we need to prove in 2024 that we have the policies and the will and the ability to make those differences.
And finding consensus on abortion, and yes, Trump, among the issues that divide the party's old guard from the new.
The focus has to be just completely right now on making sure we don't return Donald Trump to the White House.
So what are we going to learn about Republicans in 2024?
That we're going to win. That's what you're going to learn. It's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be issues. It's going to be disagreements. But guess what? There's disagreements in every household in America.
Garrett Haake, NBC News, Washington.
So, Mark Leibovich, everyone kind of tunes out for the holidays, spending time with family and friends. And then we wake up, as we sit here today, Iowa's 2.5 weeks away. 8 days later, you get New Hampshire. A lot likely decided by then. So is it just wish casting by Republicans who don't want to see Donald Trump back, and frankly, some independents and Democrats who are hoping he might go away, to think that Nikki Haley's ticking up in the polls in New Hampshire, that maybe Ron DeSantis has one last thing in him there in Iowa, could possibly catch Donald Trump and flip this election in a direction no one really believes it's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's partly wish casting, but I also think that Nikki Haley has a legitimate shot to really differentiate herself, certainly from Ron DeSantis, and maybe get a clean shot at Donald Trump and consolidate some of the support, which, you know, there are just a lot fewer candidates now. I mean, that's how the math works in her favor. The question I have, and I think a lot of people have about Nikki Haley, is how hard is she going to run against Donald Trump? I mean, what's striking to me is, other than Chris Christie, I mean, no one has really made the case, other than the very passive, well, chaos finds him case, which is what Haley has been saying. You know, DeSantis has been similarly kind of flaccid about this. I think, though, that there is obviously a lot to work with. There's a lot of material to work with. There are 91 counts to work with. There's, the kind of stuff he puts on Truth Social on Christmas Day to work with. I mean, any number of candidates, you don't have to stretch very far to make a really pointed case about whether this guy is someone Republicans want leading their party going forward in 2024. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the question we're going to sort of learn in the next few weeks. One, to what degree Nikki Haley or someone, maybe DeSantis, but probably Haley, gets a clean shot at Trump. And two, how hard they're going to run against him.
Well, in the last couple of days, Haley gave interviews in which she did not go hard after Trump. In fact, Alexi, there's been speculation that Trump might even be eyeing her to be his vice presidential pick, although that got some real pushback from the MAGA base, including Donald Trump Jr. But I want to talk about someone that Mark just mentioned, who might actually have a key as to whether we have a competitive primary or not. That's actually Chris Christie. Because if Chris Christie were to drop out in New Hampshire, polls suggest that Nikki Haley and Trump would be really close, perhaps even a dead heat, because you assume Christie voters aren't going to then go back Trump, where the former New Jersey governor disappear. What's the latest you're hearing there from Christie camp? That where Trump's got a big lead in Iowa, Haley might do okay there, but no one really thinks she can win. But New Hampshire's where she could really put a scare in him, but it might require Christie to drop out to do so. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's exactly right. And part of Nikki Haley's problem is convincing those MAGA voters who really like Trump but might possibly consider an alternative that she is a MAGA type alternative that they would look to. I mean, it's been difficult, as Mark was mentioning, for any candidate to go for Trump, but that's because they need some of those MAGA voters in order to win, and especially in a primary. We saw Chris Christie come to Haley's defense at the last debate. I'm not sure that Haley really needed that from him, and I think that her people would argue that she doesn't need Chris Christie to do anything for her to win, but the numbers don't lie, as you just pointed out, Jonathan. And his folks, the Christie supporters that he's garnered so far, are the likeliest who would go to Haley, unlike anyone else. And so while he's not going to be in the race much longer, I don't think that he's going to drop out just to help Nikki Haley.
Mark, one of the rationales we've heard from Republican opponents, sometimes explicitly, but often in the subtext of their campaigns, is that they want to hang around long enough to see what happens with those 91 felony charges, those 4 cases against Donald Trump. But if one of the cases, the federal case, the soonest one, starts in March and goes on for who knows how long, and frankly, that date could be delayed too, isn't it well too late by then to find out what his legal troubles are? Or maybe, I don't know, Chris Christie has suggested, what if you hung around until the convention and see what happens? Things get turned upside down and maybe things change. Or, to use the word again, is that also just wish casting and Donald Trump is going to roll to this nomination?
Yeah, you can sort of end a lot of questions. Is this also just wish casting in this day and age? I mean, this does mimic many layers of deja vu here, which is people, Republicans, waiting for someone else or something else to magically solve the Donald Trump problem. I mean, in 2016, you had a lot of candidates hanging around thinking, oh, Donald Trump is going to implode somehow. This isn't going to be, he's not going to be here in a few months and so forth. And then a few years later, it's like, okay, he's going to lose in 2020 or the insurrection. I mean, something is going to end it. And yet here we are again and again and again. We're almost 7-8 years into this game. And look, I mean, at some point, you do need to take him on. And no Republican ultimately has found a winning formula. But I'm pretty sure the winning formula is not the passive one, because there's a time-tested, record of this not working over a number of cycles now.
Well, after all the talk, in less than 3 weeks, finally we'll hear from the voters on these questions in Iowa. Staff writer at The Atlantic, Mark Leibovich, and Washington Post opinion editor and writer Alexi McCammon. Great to see you both. Thanks so much.